So I've had a great question come in from a professional athlete who says, how do I use social platforms to gain sponsorship? Is Instagram enough, or should I create a website with a blog and plug companies this way? And it's a great question because when it comes to personal brands and it comes to leveraging that personal brand for sponsorship, then understanding where and how to play is so important. The first thing to do is to put yourself in the eyes of the potential sponsors. So over the years and having done a lot of sponsorship, I noticed that where businesses tend to go wrong when they sponsor, so this is now talking about it from the other side, not the sponsor, the person being sponsored or the brand being sponsored, more so from the providing the sponsorship or funding the sponsorship. Where businesses tend to go wrong with sponsorship is they don't necessarily know how to activate or leverage that sponsorship. So yeah, we see it with a lot of the big brands, the ambassadorships, the latest ads on TV with your Hollywood celebrity. Those guys know how to pull those deals together. But we're talking the majority of businesses in Australia and where the bulk of this could potentially come from, and in particular looking at it from an individual perspective seeking sponsorship. What I would suggest is understanding the potential sponsors' needs as far as who you want to first engage or who you think could be a good sponsor. So it's not just anybody that has money, which is typically what happens, but understanding the businesses that you would love as sponsors, to provide sponsorship, and then who their audience is or who their customers are, and how you could potentially add value to them as a business and then their customers. So why that's so important is that the value exchange or the monetary exchange that will happen for sponsorship is more than just a brand. Is you going to a business and saying, hey look, I can put your logo on my helmet because I'm going to be on TV. That's one very small part of the equation. The second thing that you want to take a look at as well is you as a professional athlete and how you as an individual may attract, or who you have the attention of, or who you would want the attention of. So for example, let's just say you're a professional kayaker and you're starting to, you're working your way to, say, an Olympics or to extreme events, nationally, internationally, you're competing on a global scale. For there, you want to understand who do you have the attention of. So potentially you've got the attention of other kayakers, up and coming kayakers, potentially other extreme sports, so people who participate in extreme sports. And once you understand that, then you can go, okay, well, who would that benefit the most? So it could be, now sure, brands like GoPro and Red Bull are all over that and they're scouting the talent themselves. So it's less likely perhaps that they're going to want to sponsor you as an individual until you start to get those creds and you start to build the following. However, there might be smaller brands. There might be, some niche kayak brands. There might be some niche paddle brands, helmet brands, life vest brands, clothing brands, shoe brands, roof rack brands. There could be a series of different brands that would benefit from the attention of your audience, because what they want, they know that if you're a kayaker and you're using their products, it's likely that your audience, the people who who basically you've got their attention, would be interested in. And that's where what they call the influence strategy would come into play. So you can grow your influence. So how do you do that? Of course, social media is the starting point. So if I were an athlete today looking to build my personal brand up, I'd definitely start on social media. So I would personally be activating absolutely Facebook, absolutely Instagram, and I'd even, depending on your comfort level, Snapchat as well. And I would start growing those three audiences to begin with. What I would also suggest is that you look at having, say, a LinkedIn profile, more so from a professional standpoint, in that what you have achieved, what your sporting accomplishments are, so that you can share that with potentially the bigger decision makers in the bigger businesses that will, and even some of the medium and smaller businesses, they're obviously on LinkedIn as well, but positioning yourself more so from a creds level so that that part of the process is easy to communicate. However, on Instagram, Facebook and Snapchat, that's about the action, that's about the activity, that's about you as a personality, that's about what you're doing, what your training regime's like, what brand you use, how you go about competing, where you're traveling to, where you're competing next, what's valuable to you, what's your diet like, etc, etc, etc. So with that, by investing that time into growing that social following, that's the first protocol. That's going to give you influence. And it could be 1,000 followers, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000 followers. That following has value. From there, as you start to make money and get to be paid for your participation or for your competition, if you're winning money, my strategy would be to be reinvesting that money into your personal profile. So that's where having a professional website could come into play. That's where starting to write some blogs, so some content, doing some video content, could start to be valuable, where you start talking about potentially the verticals that are related to your sport. So again, if it's kayaking, you could be talking about the different types of kayaks, talking about different types of paddles, talking about different types of helmet, maybe talking about helmet cams, talking about locations, talking about travel, like where do you send a travel? Like, how do you travel with a kayak? Do you need roof racks? Do you need a trailer? Is it all of the above? Like, there's so many things that you can implement once you understand what your audience wants to see and potentially what your sponsors have to see. By you investing in that personal brand, then you've got leverage. And that leverage is what the sponsors want, because it then enables you to go in and say, look, I've got a professional website, I've got a lot of attention from a lot of great people who are following me on Instagram, on Facebook, on Snapchat, and now I have the channel to start talking about and sharing your products or your services or whatever it might be. Same thing if you're a professional mountain biker or any form of dirt bike rider, etc. You've got the ability to build your channel, build your personal brand, and then you leverage that personal brand to help in your approach to sponsorship. The ultimate goal is, where can you add the most value to your sponsors' brands, and how do you give them something that they can see results in traffic to their website, sales to their business, engagement with their customers, content for their customers. There's so many things that you can provide as an individual that would provide value to those brands, and that's how I'd go about getting that sponsorship. I hope that helps.